Hello everybody, this is Amanda Ellis. How are you doing? As I'm making this video, it is the 27th of January 2020, and the subject of this video is we're going to be looking at the coronavirus. And this video, I was given a lot of information yesterday on Sunday. I've got pages of notes here, so it's going to be quite structured in terms of how we're going to work through this. I'm going to split it down into why I'm doing this video, the background in terms of how this has started, as well as looking at whether it was a man-made virus or something else. I'm going to then share with you what I was shown by Metatron in terms of some visions that I had yesterday. I also pulled some tarot cards on the situation, and I'll share with you what they were. I'm then going to move into giving some protective tips that again Archangel Metatron gave to me yesterday to help prevent the spread, as well as deal with it if you were somebody that became infected. I think I have to say at the outset that it's probably unlikely that you will be, but it's still, I think, very important to be given information and guidance in terms of what to do if the situation accelerates, because as I make this video on Monday the 27th, it's still largely contained within China, although there are reported cases in France, I believe, and a few other places around the world as well. But there is a potential there for it to become bigger and to spread. So we are going to err on the side of caution and bring in some guidance in case that scenario were to happen. I also am being told by Metatron that it's almost as though this video will probably stand in its own right in terms of any other pandemic or epidemic that comes in our lifetime. Doesn't mean that I won't necessarily go back and relook at it, but I do feel, particularly in terms of some of the guidance in terms of protection, it will stand for other things as well. Okay. I'm then going to move on to having a look at how does it end. And I've also been given 4 crystals in particular that are important for us. I've been given some essential oils that I feel are important, and I've also want to look at the animal symbolism in all of this, because there are animals that stand out and that are coming forward as teachers with regard to this. One being the bat, another one being the rat, and another one being the snake. So we're going to look at all of that. So there's quite a lot to get through, and it may well be that if you're really wanting to dive deep into this, you might have to come back and watch it a second time or even take notes. Okay, so that being said, we're going to just dive into it, and as with all of the work that I do, I'm guided by Archangel Metatron, who's my guide. So we're just acknowledging his presence here with us. And I want to just pull a card here from a deck that I've got, which is called the Sacred Earth Oracle. And I'll pull this on screen so you can see whatever comes up. I don't know, I've actually had this sort of, all the cards set up on my desk overnight with all of the notes. And I'm not quite sure why this deck wanted to be included. So I'm quite intrigued just to pull a card to start us off, and then we'll go into the outline that I was talking about earlier. So, okay, what we've got is the card of Center on the top of the deck, and then we've got the card Repetition on the bottom of the deck. And then we've also got Influence, and we've also got Efficiency. I'm actually going to pull all 4 of those. Okay, I understand now why the deck wanted to be here. Let's just take them one by one. So firstly, we are looking at the center of where the virus was originated from, came from, and is currently being dealt with, which is in a province called Wuhan in China. Okay, so this to me, and excuse me if my pronunciation is wrong with that name, This to me is a card that represents Wuhan, okay? So it's the epicenter of the epidemic at the moment. Now, the card that was underneath the pack, which is sort of what potentially can come in and is sort of lurking, is the card of repetition, okay? So to me, that's quite clear that what it's saying is that there is a potential that what is contained in a centralized location can be repeated in other places, which probably is why I'm being asked to do this video, is to put some guidance out there with what to do if that were to happen. That doesn't mean it will happen. It means that there is a potential for this to rapidly be repeated in other places. And I can't help but notice that on the card of repetition, we've got 4 horses. Now, I'm not wanting to freak anybody out here, okay? You need to, if you found me for the first time, maybe go back and look at some of my other videos, because I've got a proven track record in trying to calm the waters with a number of things and events that happen in our world. I'm not somebody that is about spreading panic, but I am somebody that is about dealing with the truth and being brave enough to go and talk about things that other people might want to shy away from. Now, one of the visions that I was given last night by Archangel Metatron when I tuned into the coronavirus was he talked about the 4 men, the 4 horses which are linked to the apocalypse. Now, that does not, and I repeat, does not mean that the world is about to end. It does not mean catastrophe. If you actually look up the what the meaning of apocalypse is, which I have done, it actually, do you know what it means? What it actually means is, hold on, got it here. It comes from the Greek word and it means disclosure or revelation, okay? So apocalypse means disclosure or revelation. Now, of course, there is a book of Revelations in the New Testament, which is widely discussed in terms of what it may mean or not mean, lots of different interpretations. It's always been a bit of a mystery. Some people have shied away from even wanting to look at it because it's quite challenging. I will, I think, probably put a link to an article that I've found which talks about the 7 seals of Revelation and talks about the 4 horses and what they stand for. But it needs to be read in light of the fact that I believe why Metatron is bringing up these 4 horses, and I heard about them yesterday in the vision, and now you've seen I've pulled the card live and we've got them, is that this is actually a sign that we are at end of times in terms of the old earth, okay? So those of you that follow me and those that watch me know that I've been talking, as have many teachers online, about the end of old 3D earth, okay? That is what we are going through at this moment in time. And new earth is being birthed. And I believe that we're being given the 4 horses that are sort of riding into this situation as an indication that we are entering end times in terms of the old earth. I repeat, that does not mean the world is about to disappear. It does not mean that there's about to be a mass culling of everybody. It's about a shift in consciousness. Having said that, we do have here an image of somebody who looks quite sorrowful, okay? So this is not an easy time, and I'm not trying to present it as easy. It's not a case of just flicking a switch from old to new. What the book of Revelations talks about is the fact that there are a number of signs of these end times before what they talk about in terms of the return of Christ. Now, I don't believe that the return of Christ is the return of a particular man or a particular figure. I believe that what is referred to is the return of what we call Christ consciousness, which is the sweeping across our planet of the energy of love, compassion, forgiveness, tolerance, peace, all of the things that Christ talked about 2,000 years ago. But it's about us starting to embody that fully within ourselves rather than just seeing it in one person, i.e. Christ. It's us becoming Christed beings in ourselves. And it's a whole wave of that which wants to sweep across the world, across New Earth, and birth New Earth. And I feel as though the trumpets are sort of heralding the arrival of that. Now, why am I going off on this tangent and talking about this? Isn't this video supposed to be about coronavirus? Yes, it is. But the thing is, if you understand the book of Revelations and the mention of the four horsemen of the apocalypse, you will know that the precursor to this is linked into 4 different factors. And these 4 different factors are pestilence, i.e. plague, or in this case we'll give it its new name, virus, war. Just trying to see what the other 4 are. You see, I've got so many blinking notes here, it's getting a bit out of control. War, here we go, war, pestilence, famine and death. Now, what I'm being told by Metatron is all 4 of these are already on the planet and have been for some time. It's not as though this is something that we're going to discover anew, today or in the next month. There has been famine in our world for many years. There has been war in our world for many years. Death is a part of life, and there is an acceleration of people choosing to pass over, particularly this year. Pestilence is the one that we're talking about in this particular video, which is plague, okay? Plague, which would be an old-fashioned word. We're going to call it virus in this one. So straight off the back, these cards are saying centre of the virus, Wuhan. There is the potential that this is going to repeat, okay? Brought in context of the energy of the 4 horsemen who are riding in, but actually are riding in to signal the arrival of new earth, when a new earth will be when things like pestilence, plagues, war, famine and death, I'll come back to that, cease to be. When I say death ceases to be, it's about people understanding that actually there's no such thing as death, that actually we are all completely interlinked. I'm just going to have to, you can see that I'm struggling with the sunlight here, so I'm just going to move my camera a little bit. Ooh, what am I going to do, guys? Maybe if I just do that. Have I gone a bit into the dark? Probably have, haven't I? Never mind, it can't be helped. Well, maybe that's symbolic. We're going a little bit into the dark, but the thing is that the tunnel always has bright light at the end of it. After the energy of repetition, we had the, I can't remember which order these came about, but basically I think it was influence. So this was linked into, I feel what Metatron is saying is that we can influence the outcome of how far this can spread. And if you look at the card, what she's doing is she's holding a dove of peace, okay? And it's actually a very peaceful image. She doesn't look like she's panicking. She doesn't look like she's in fear. She actually looks like she's holding peace very strongly in her heart, as well as the energy of hope, as well as the energy of love, as well as the energy of light. And it feels as though by us encapsulating and being those energies at this time versus other energies out there, including the media, which are trying to fan the flames of fear and panic, we can influence how this will be repeated or not, and how wide the tendrils of this virus can spread around the world or not, okay? So we are not passive observers who just watch in horror as this unfolds. We can actually help influence the spread of this and help contain it. And that to me is also backed up by this card, which is the card of efficiency, which is saying that we can do an efficient job at influencing this, okay? Moving into 5D, moving into New Earth, we are not passive victims or observers. We are master manifestors who can influence and change anything. I mean, I think we've seen that as a spiritual community already, haven't we? If you've been watching, for example, my work on the Australian fires, you've been watching some of my other videos on earth changes, and just things that are happening with the environment, and other people's work as well, you will see that I believe that we have been able to influence weather patterns, for example, and encouraging the elements to, for example, bring the rains where they were needed in Australia. That's an ongoing thing. It's not just a one-off activity, but it's demonstrating the power that we do have as humans. And I feel as though a big part of the learning of this whole coronavirus energy is it's trying to teach us actually that we are all interconnected, and that when we do all work as a team, as opposed to in isolationist type tendencies, we can achieve great efficiency. And this card of efficiency has got the rainbow light. It's almost like bringing in, it's like the rainbow tribe. There's a saying about the rainbow tribe coming back to help birth the new world. And I feel that's what we're being asked to do here. Okay, so I'm going to put those 4 cards to one side. So that's just something that came in, as you saw just now. Let's have a little look at my 5 or 6 points that I've got here. I'm just going to put some oil into my aura, which is called pirate oil. I've talked about this before. It's a combination of clove, lemon, cinnamon, rosemary and eucalyptus. You could probably make up your own blend of it. It was actually used by pirates to ward off infection in the past. I've talked about this in other videos that I've done, and I found it very helpful yesterday to help me tune in to the energies of what's going on here with this coronavirus. So Metatron's asked me to come on and speak about this today to help give context to why it's happening, the higher learning from it, and also how we deal with it. Okay, so let's just have a little bit of background in terms of what we know. I don't have figures and facts in front of me in terms of how many people have been infected so far or the particular areas that it's at, because it's something that's actually changing day by day. But I have just got, where is it? Here we go. There seems to be 2 particular strands of information and belief that are out there at the moment. One saying that this virus seems to have been something that has swept from animals to humans, and that the source of it may well be bats. Some people also are talking about snakes. There's a market, basically a live market in Wuhan, which some believe is the main source of the outbreak, where, it's quite distressing to read. I think they basically slaughter live animals sort of there on the spot, or there's certainly an energy around it of unhygienic conditions, inhumane conditions, disrespect to animals coming through. I want to talk about animals because there's a whole stream of information coming through about how we treat animals and whether we should be eating animals as well. But I'm just trying to keep it point by point because this is such a huge subject to try and cover today. But for now, just understand that that's one of the theories out there, that this virus may have originated in terms of cross-contamination between species. Metatron gave me the same analogy as happened with regards mad cow disease, which was something that was there was an outbreak of that in, I think it was the 1980s in the UK. I don't know whether it happened in other countries as well, but the feeling with that is that it resulted from cows having been fed animal products in their feed. And of course, cows mainly are, they eat grass and they don't eat meat. So what we did as human beings was we interfered with the laws of nature, and a mutation happened in terms of virus, which then when people ate the meat, which had the disease in it, it jumped to humans. So again, Metatron said something in a video I did recently, which was sometimes it's not a case of one thing only. It's a case of it can be both. I actually feel there's a bit of both in terms of how this has happened and how it originated, because I am feeling a strong pull towards a something that started in animals but has jumped species to human. So that means cross-contamination in some way. But I'm also noting, and it's very important to note, that in Wuhan, quite near to this market where these animals were sold, and the type of animals that were sold included snakes, bats, koalas, I've heard, donkeys, all sorts. I mean, it's just a whole hodgepodge of animals that were there for sale and were being sold. Beside this market also is a laboratory which specialised in biological weapons, basically. Okay, so you know, you don't have to be a brain surgeon to realise that there's probably a bit of that comes into this as well, and that maybe this was a virus that had either been grown within the laboratory, released either intentionally or unintentionally, but the point is, really, we've now got to live with the consequences of that. I watched somebody else's video over the weekend, and all of the comments were just sort of saying, yep, we knew it was started by man. The point is, even if that's what you believe, it doesn't really help. It doesn't really get you anywhere past that statement in terms of how can we treat it, what can we learn from it. And indeed, this whole thing about is it man-made or not? I did ask Metatron that question, and let me just find his reply to it. I've got the gist of it in my head, I can remember, but I think I made some notes on that. Man-made or not? Yeah, okay, so this is what I've written down here. I've got these notes. Metatron is saying the point is that everything is man-made, including the perspective that it comes via cross-contamination of species. Because if that is true, who did that? Man did that, is what Metatron is saying, okay? Or if you believe it is created in a lab, that is also man. I've written down here, man is responsible 100% for what happens on this planet. God doesn't do anything to us. If you understand everything is connected, and took 100% responsibility for all of it, man would make the biggest leap forward in his history. I'm just reading my notes here. I've written, you aren't separate from nature. And you're also not separate from the balance of light and dark on this planet, which then causes figures to appear to act out either darkness or light. He's trying to make the point that it's this thing about it's not either or. It's not as simple as just saying it came from a laboratory or it came from animal cross-contamination. He's saying both things at their core have got man's interference within them. It is a man-made problem. It just depends which theory you want to believe. But ultimately, whichever one you believe, whichever one you resonate with, you're still left with the problem. And really now we need to look at the problem that's been created by man, and deal with it. And Metatron's saying, and I need to now come in and support you. Okay. Anything else to say on that? I'm going to come back to the bit on animals later. I'm going to tell you what I was shown by Metatron yesterday when I sat in meditation and just asked him. I said, just show me the scale of this, please. Show me where we are at. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you, okay? We're all grown-ups, we're all spiritually, tune into your higher self if you need to at this point, just to bring that awareness back, okay? What I was shown very clearly was quite a large funeral pyre. So I'm not going to sugarcoat that, that's what I was shown. And it wasn't a small funeral pyre, it was a large funeral pyre. It was in the shape of a pyramid, and it was large, and it's quite obvious what that means. A funeral pyre is where bodies are burnt, things are burnt to dispose of the body, basically. I was also, when I was shown the funeral pyre, you know me and songs, I often get given songs. I was given a song by a British band called The Jam. I have to say, my brother is a huge Paul Weller fan, and I grew up listening to The Jam through his bedroom wall. The song that Metatron gave me was Funeral Pyre by The Jam, and it's actually one of their more pithy songs. It's got quite an angry energy to it, and as I always do, I thought I'm going to look at the lyrics. There's going to be a reason why he's giving this song other than it's just called Funeral Pyre. And this is the bit that I've pulled out, which I think is why he's bringing this song to our attention. It says, down in amongst the streets tonight, books will burn, people laugh and cry in their turmoil. Shed your fears and lose your guilt. Tonight we burn responsibility in the fire. We'll watch the flames grow higher. But if you get too burnt, you can't come back home. This is the thing that I think is particularly relevant. The song says, we feast on flesh and drink on blood, live by fear and despise love in a crisis. What with today's high prices? Bring some paper and bring some wood. Bring what's left of all your love for the fire. We'll watch the flames grow higher. So there's a few messages in that. One, there is an absence of love in the heart of a lot of humanity at the moment. Love is not the main currency that it needs to be in our world to birth the new. That comes out very clearly from these lyrics to me. Bring what's left of all your love for the fire. Yeah, and then this thing about we feast on flesh and drink on blood. That straight away took me back to those animals in the marketplace. And I think probably the way that they are, I don't know whether they kill them at the market or whether they're killed before they get to the market. But I don't want to go into it too much because it's quite a horrible image that I've got in my mind's eye that he's showing me. But I'm just seeing quite a distressing scene of animal flesh basically in this market. And it's like there's no respect, there's no... everything's just sort of almost like next to each other, whether it's a bat, a horse, a rat, it's just a snake. It's as though there's no respect for the animal that's died. There's no respect for the species. Everything's sort of lumped together. And there is that thing also about we feast on flesh, okay? We feast on flesh and we drink on blood. And I'm not going to go into a big, cry about veganism or vegetarianism here. That maybe is a thing for another day's video, but I do think there's a message coming through with this, which is the need for a more plant-based diet. I'm not completely vegetarian. I'm going to say that at the outset, okay, because I'm not going to present myself as something that I'm not. I don't eat red meat anymore. I've got one of my daughters is vegetarian. And so increasingly we eat vegetarian food a lot of the time. I do still eat white meat, but I noticed myself within the last couple of years, I just can't eat red meat anymore. I don't want it. And I know that a lot of people are feeling the same thing, that there is this turning away from the words here, flesh, to a more plant-based diet, okay? I will just say as well that there's a book that I was reading the Sunday papers, and I'll have to put it in the link below because I can't remember the name of the book at the moment, but there is a book out where somebody was saying they're following this new diet where effectively they eat vegan or vegetarian. I think he was eating vegan actually. It was vegan. 2 meals out of 3. So every single day, breakfast and lunch, for example, is vegan. And then in the evening, if you still want to eat meat, lots of people don't, of course, you can eat meat or fish for the third meal of the day. Now, for those of you that are completely vegan already or vegetarian, I'm not saying you need to eat meat or fish. That is not what I'm saying. What I found helpful about this particular book is a lot of people find it a big jump to go from a meat-based diet to a plant-based diet. And so I thought this was almost like a middle road. And I've been talking about the middle road a lot in my videos, that this is something that potentially is achievable. It's not beyond the realms of reason to be able to eat vegan twice a day and then eat something else for the third. So I think there is a message with this coronavirus, and I think it is the bat, and it is also, it's the bat, I want to talk about the bat now, who is trying to give us a message here that new Earth, 5D Earth, we are going to be eating a more plant-based diet. And I'm also feeling as though the human body will adjust to that, okay? And this is why when people come on and start to condemn other people because of their choices to either eat meat or not eat meat, you need to appreciate that every single person's body is different to maybe your body. We are all individual, we all have different needs, we all react in different ways to food. And so you have to allow people to adjust at their own pace to what it is that they feel their body needs. Now, with the ascension journey, what kicks in is just the desire for eating flesh basically starts to diminish anyway, so it becomes easier. But if you're going to come on, for example, to my video here and start condemning other people on this page who still eat meat, I'm not listening to you, okay? I'm taking the middle ground here. So, and I'm saying that because the last time I even brought this subject up, I got so viciously attacked that it was just ridiculous. I hope that over the last couple of years since I last mentioned this, that as a community we have evolved enough to be able to at least listen to other people and respect other people's opinion. But if you come on and start bashing and really being aggressive, you're not going to be heard, okay? So, because that's not 5D, okay? It's just not 5D. Right, so that's that. Let's talk about the bat at this point, okay? Because the bat, a bit like the koala when the Australian fires were coming on, I believe that the animals right now are our biggest teachers, actually, okay? They're our biggest teachers. So move away now from the transition to plant-based eating to, okay, what are these animals trying to teach us? So whatever you believe in terms of how the coronavirus has started, if you've read any report about it in the papers or you've watched the news, you will have heard the word bat, okay? You'll have heard the word bat because it's been batted around, excuse the pun. So I'm looking at what bat means, okay? So this is bat. And I've got a deck of cards here, which is called The Spirit Animal Wisdom by Katie Jane Wright, okay? And I want to read what it says about bat. I had it on the page earlier. I've also got the spider coming through as an animal totem, and I also want to talk about the rat. But anyway, the bat. You see, the bat is linked to the element of air, and the coronavirus is an airborne disease. The meaning of bat is it's saying you're working through deep soul patterns. Release any outdated beliefs that surface. So when any animal comes up to attention and it's like flashed across the front pages or its name is mentioned, this is what bat is trying to teach us as a species, that it's time for us to release any outdated beliefs. That could include potentially eating meat or not, you know, I'm just putting it out there. And also it's asking us to work through deep soul patterns. It says the bat is the guardian of the night and it symbolises rebirth. He flies in to let you know that change is coming, fast-moving change, that some could interpret as rebirth. Your higher self will come knocking, so be ready to answer the call. And it talks about bats use the vibration of sound to communicate. So work on the ways that you give and receive communication. You know, my last video was on communication, wasn't it? You know, Metatron starting to talk about communication and the way it needs to be upgraded and that we're all miscommunicating with each other much of the time. It's not just about what somebody says, you've got to feel where it's coming from in their body. Is it coming from their heart or is it coming from their ego? So bat again is bringing up the subject of communication. Whilst we're on the subject of animals, let's just finish this off here. I pulled a card also linked into coronavirus and I got spider, okay? I got spider. Now, spider keeps coming up in my readings all the time. It's been coming up pretty consistently for a good year, I would say. And the thing that interests me about spider, and actually I got the spider also on the tarot spread that I pulled, which I'll come to in a moment, is that one of the cards that came up in the tarot spread for the coronavirus just generally is this one, which is the Eight of Pentacles, which shows a spider in his web. And then we get spider coming up as an animal totem as well. So spider twice. Now, I feel that spider has many, many meanings, okay? But in this context, it's talking about the web, okay? The web, that we're all connected to this grid. We're all connected to this web. And that we can weave that web however we choose. And there's something linked in here about in terms of how can we heal this situation with coronavirus, which is linked into the grid lines around the earth. So if you imagine, for example, the earth, and at the moment we have China, which is experiencing this tragedy. Okay, so here we've got China, and this is where the centre of it all is. But yet really the whole world can potentially be infected by this virus. That's worst case scenario, and it's not what I'm saying is going to happen, but potentially it could. The virus can spread, basically, not just in terms of what science knows, in terms of airborne, or they're also saying it can be spread via the eyes actually as well. But it's to do with the grid lines around our world, a bit like the spider web. So it's almost as though the virus is sort of there in the centre of the web, and then either, again, that card of influence, remember, we can either influence that it travels through the grid lines. The planet is surrounded by light grid lines. It can travel really easily and it can flow wherever it wants to and make as much damage as it wants to. Or as light workers, we can start to envision in your meditation the globe. Imagine China at the centre being cleansed with silver light, with white light, and then also see that silver light rippling through all of the grid lines of planet Earth, okay? Now, I'm saying silver because silver has antibacterial qualities. Silver is an energy that's going to help to it fights infection. If anybody that's taken Collodial Silver, which was actually one of Metatron's suggestions as well, when we come to precautions, Collodial Silver is a natural antibacterial agent that you can actually take in your body. It's as though you're imagining the silver flowing through the grid lines of Mother Earth. And what it's doing is it's almost as though if, for example, the virus wanted to travel energetically from here to, where would this be? This is actually Mexico, okay? In terms of my globe, Mexico is sort of here. Well, it can't do so if we're imagining these grid lines in the earth being full of pulsating silver light. So it's as though any virus that's trying to move down that grid line with silver light gets blocked, it gets zapped before it's even travelled halfway there. So that's one thing. If what I'm saying is resonating to you, remember, I think that's what spider's teaching us. He's sitting there in his web, but the point about the spider in his web is he's master of that web. He's master of the web. He's able to create it how he wants to create it. And equally, he's that's basically what I'm wanting to say. Let me just see if there's anything I haven't said from the book that is important. Yeah, so it says tune into the energetic grids around you. Where can you send your energy for healing? Spiders are masters of communication. You see two animals, the bat and the spider, both bringing up the energy of communication linked into this coronavirus. So be very careful how that you don't spread panic and fear, okay? It's a very difficult one because, of course, you have to acknowledge that things are happening, which is why I'm here talking about it. But equally, I'm trying to present this in a way which is, and it's coming through my energy, hopefully, whereas I'm not in panic here. I'm not in panic. I'm completely calm. I know that this is under control in terms of Spirit ultimately knowing the outcome. I'll talk about that a bit more in a moment. But, you know, I'm calm. I'm not in panic. I'm not coming in like, you know, world's going to end. No, it's not. So be very careful how you communicate. The problem is that people do panic. Of course they do. But as light workers, we're being asked to not do that. Because it's saying here, in terms of the spider's web, their webs are information highways. And it says here, they are the energetic ley lines around the earth, the golden webs between the trees that form a grid to hold the space, the golden cords that we send out to one another. Spiders are the dream weavers that connect the earth and heavens and maintain the webs within both the inner worlds and the cosmic realms. They show us what is possible when we look outside our limiting beliefs. And it says that the weight of a web, weight for weight, the silk within it, is stronger than steel. So again, there's this reference to don't underestimate the power of sending silver light, gold light as well, I'm hearing now, through the grid lines of Mother Earth. You don't need to know exactly where the grid lines are, where they all meet up. Just in meditation, imagine the earth, as I've got here, in your mind's eye, and just create a beautiful golden silver web around it. And into that, push antibacterial energy. Okay? And particularly, of course, let's send it to China. Right, let me show you now the 4 cards that... Oh no, let's finish off animals. I'm trying to do this in a structured way. I must mention the rat. The first thing I felt intuitively when I heard about the coronavirus was, hold on a minute, it's almost like it came into fruition around the time of Chinese New Year. And Chinese New Year was on the 25th. That's, I think the celebrations were cancelled across China and in Hong Kong. It's the Chinese Year of the Rat. Just wait for Bella to calm down. She's just reminding me that something happened to her last night. She was really adamant that I talked about animals and the abuse of animals. I'll just see if she's going to calm down. No, she's not calming down because she's cross. It's all right, there is somebody down there. Yeah, the Year of the Rat. It's the Year of the Rat, okay? Just at the time that this, I'm wanting to call it plague, virus, hits the news. Millions of people contained, within parts of China, not able to move. Year of the Rat. It took me straight back to the bubonic plague in London in, 16th century, Middle Ages. I can't remember the date off the top of my head. And the thing about the bubonic plague is that the plague was carried on rats. It was carried on my daughter tells me, who's doing history, she says, oh no, Mum, it wasn't the rats, it was the fleas that were on the rats that carried, that spread the disease, basically. So it just seemed to me very strange that, in the Year of the Rat, we suddenly have this problem now with a virus again. Those of you that are in the UK, or indeed anywhere around the world, but I can only give a UK reference because I don't understand. I'm also hearing Spanish flu, for example. So that Metatron was also talking about the Spanish flu, which hit, I believe, after the end of one of the wars. And so he mentioned, let me just find my notes. He mentioned the Spanish plague. He mentioned the bubonic plague. These epidemics that have hit our world. But again, in terms of what you can do, for example, in the UK, there is a place called Blackheath. It's a very beautiful part of London, actually, Blackheath. But Blackheath is named Blackheath because underneath Blackheath, they buried a lot of people who died of the plague, okay? Now, similar to what I was talking about in terms of Australia, and you remember I was asking us to plant quartz clear crystals along the ley lines, basically, I was talking about Botany Bay, and I was also talking about near to where I live here. You know, those of you that understand what I'm saying, you remember me asking you to do that exercise. Well, I'm being asked for us to do the same exercise in places where you know there's been a memory of plague or virus in the past. So to me, in the UK, it's blinking obvious. One of the places would be Blackheath, okay? And I've shown that very clearly. Anybody that's in the vicinity of that area who can just go there, even if you just say a prayer over the land, you do a ceremony to cleanse the land, you put some crystals into the land will tell you what it needs, is what I'm hearing, okay? Doesn't need everybody there doing it, it maybe just needs one person, okay? So one of you is going to be you that's watching me. It's like you know who you are if I'm resonating, okay? But yeah, Spanish flu as well. Again, I don't know my history well enough to know where it was particularly centred. I don't believe it was just Spain though. I believe it was worldwide actually. I think I did read that Spanish media, or whatever they were called in those days, were they talked about it. They were able to express and talk about it more. They got the message out where it was almost like banned from being spoken about elsewhere. So if you live in an area where you know there has been a history of plague or virus in the past, and it might go back hundreds and hundreds of years, if you feel called to, Metatron is asking you to do some form of ceremonial or clearing work at that area. Why? Because, well, okay, let's just ask him why. I mean, I think it's quite obvious why, but I just want to feel his words for this. Okay, why are you asking them to do that? Okay, he's talking about cellular memory of the land. Okay, he's asked me to give this analogy to you. I'm currently, for example, doing a detox physically at the moment. I'm taking some herbal medicine. I'm detoxing. Imagine before you do a detox, say, for example, sugar is your problem, and there's a battery within your body, and you're at 110% sugar content. You know, I'm exaggerating. You know, it's like overflowing. Your body is overflowing with toxins, sugar, whatever, you know? What happens when you do a detox is you take that barometer down as low as you possibly can. I'm being told 20% I can take mine down to, which would be great if I can. So say, for example, I'm not saying I'm at 100%, but say I'm at 100% toxicity, okay? Detoxing will take it down to a certain level. When I'm at 20%, what that then means is if there is any sort of contamination, sugar, whatever wants to come into my body, I then have an 80% free space to be able to hold a healing energy and the silver light, the antibacterial energy, which is not going to affect me. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? It's almost like I need a flip chart here. It's literally like I'm being shown a battery. And when we detox the land, or we detox ourselves, we're taking it down to a base level so that the land or the person is able to cope with any incoming energy, be that virus, be that sugar, be that anything else. Whereas if you're already at 100%, you're saturated basically. And anything else that comes on top cannot be dealt with basically. And remember that every single piece of land in our world is connected to every other piece of land. So if Blackheath, as an example, is completely still saturated and it still has that energy, that cellular energy of plague, of virus, and say it still is at 100%, I don't think it is, but say it was, and then there's another virus that comes in, it's like it overflows, it can't cope with it. So you have to take it down in these individual spots. Metatron's calling them heat spots around the planet, heat spots. And there was a card that I saw earlier in this pack, which was the card of heat. And he's just saying, show them that. Yeah, okay, heat. That's what it is. It's like the planet has got these heat spots. And those of you that are called to do the collective work, what you're doing is you're reducing the inflammation around the world in terms of the memory of all sorts of things. But today we just happen to be talking about plague and virus. Okay, other videos we might talk about a memory of war or a memory of famine. Interesting, I'm talking about those two because they also happen to be linked into those 4 horsemen. Okay, so, but today let's just stick to what we're being asked to do. Okay. He's talking to me about the element of water, and it may well be that water comes in to help. He's saying water can both hinder and help. What do I mean by that? When I was shown the vision, I asked Metatron, how did this start? And I've already explained, I don't think it's either or, okay? So there's a bit of probably mixing things up in laboratories and then releasing something either intentionally or not. There's also something linked into the animals and cross-contamination with humans and that market, which is very near the laboratory. But I was also shown just an image, he didn't really elaborate on it. I was shown a gutter, and I was shown water flowing down the gutter. Well, in fact, I was shown a bit more than that. I was shown a mixture of blood and water flowing down in the gutter. And I think that's linked to the market and the practices that went on there. And it literally is like I'm wanting to say the fluid that's flowing down that gutter is contaminated, toxic. It's also a source of it. And of course, when something goes into the water supply, you've got a problem. So, but as Dr. Emoto taught us, water, yes, it holds memory, but water can also be reprogrammed, okay? It can be reprogrammed. So whether it is physical rain that falls on places where virus is, or whether it is just energetic rain, I'm not quite sure. Does it matter? Maybe not, he says. It's more that we're envisaging water coming in to cleanse, to heal, to cleanse, to heal. Okay, that's interesting. He's now shown me water on a planet. When you first discover a planet, whether it's, well, for example, Mars, we know Mars exists, of course we do, but like when the first drop of water was found on Mars, if that's happened, I can't remember off the top of my head, but any planet, when they discover water, they know that life is there. And I'm being shown that the water in our world is linked to the healing of all of this as well. Because whether you're in China, whether you're in Wuhan, whether you're in the UK, whether you're in France, whether you're in USA, the water that you drink, guys, has been recycled many times. So the water that I've just ingested there, that may well have come in from goodness knows where, Okay, it's gone through a processing. But equally, when I drink it, if I drink it with the energy of health, I'm just envisaging health and wellness, and I'm being given the word immunity. Immunity. Those of you that understand the works of Dr. Emoto, if you've got water on your desk or beside your bed or with your meal, put the word immunity underneath the water, okay? It's also going to help you to be protected from all of this as well. Let me just write that in my list of things to do with protective tips, just to remind you, because I know there's quite a lot to take in on this video. My God, we're already at 50 minutes. Okay, come on, let me just try and get this out there. Can I now move on Metatron to the next bit? He says you can't rush this. Okay, I'm not going to rush it, all right. He's saying she's more worried about rushing the video than the virus. That's true, I am. I'm not worried about the virus. I'm just doing this because it's almost like a public service announcement. That's what he's saying. That's not taken away from the suffering that's happening in China, but, I'm full of compassion for that. Right, okay, show them the cards. Next thing then, show them the cards. So these were the cards that I pulled yesterday, and I just said, my question was, have I written down what the question was? Yeah, the question basically was just show me the coronavirus, show me the extent of this. That's all I said. And I got these three cards. So I got the Eight of Pentacles, which I've sort of already explained, the spider and its web. I got the card of Death, and I got the card of the Hanged Man. Okay, this is the Shadowscapes Tarot deck. Death is death, okay, so yes, there are going to be some deaths. The funeral pyre that I was shown earlier. There's no escaping that. I'm not sugarcoating it, okay? But also this is also a rebirth energy as well, when it all dies down, because it will die down. I'll come to that later. But we've got the Hanged Man. The Hanged Man is, the virus is asking us to look in a different way, it needs a different perspective on it, is what I'm hearing. I also feel what Metatron's saying to me here is, at the moment, today, we feel a bit in limbo with it. We feel a bit in limbo because it's like there is no known cure. We're in limbo. We feel trapped. You know, another interpretation here, the spider is a bit trapped. And of course, things can get trapped in the spider's web as well. So they're not particularly positive cards, but you wouldn't expect them to be particularly positive cards, would you? It's not a particularly pleasant subject. I then asked for clarification on the death card, and I got the Tower, and I got the Devil. The Tower is the Tower, which is basically saying this is in terms of the world, this is an unexpected event that's coming from nowhere. That's what the Tower is. The Tower is something you can't see coming. So, but remember, the meaning of the Tower also is it's ultimately a positive card, because what it's saying is it's letting go of something that needed to be let go of to birth something new. So this is in the context of 3D Earth being let go of for 5D Earth to come in. I have to say at this point, and I hope I don't offend anybody here, but it is my completely authentic belief, is that when souls die in events such as this, not just this type of thing, but other things as well, it's almost like there's a sacrificial energy to it, where they as souls are not victims, although they look like they're victims, because you see the news and it's like, my God, you know, they look terrible, and you know, it looks so scary and it's so painful. They are not victims. They are making the greatest sacrifice. There's actually a very strong energy of Christ energy here, which is that they're trying to teach us something. And they're trying to teach us many things. And this is why you've got to view this type of subject with, there are so many different layers to it. You can't just come at it with one answer. Another perspective of this is that they are trying to show us an aspect of unity consciousness. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is a virus knows no barrier, okay? With the exception, of course, of our golden grid that we've just created. But, you know, before we said that, ultimately, go unchecked is what Metatron's saying. Go unchecked without the work that we can potentially do to flood the grid with the silver and the gold light. Without that, the virus can go unchecked. It can keep repeating from the centre, okay? If we don't influence in an efficient way the spread of it. So if it's unchecked, it can just flow wherever it wants to flow, and it can have no mercy in terms of, it doesn't matter if you're black or white, it doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, it doesn't matter if you're American, it doesn't matter if you're Chinese, it doesn't matter if you're English, it doesn't matter, because all it sees is a human person. It doesn't see that you're in a particular country, that you have a particular faith. It just sees a person. And, you know, I was reading something in the paper the other day, and I couldn't believe my eyes. Well, I could actually, because it's just like it was a paper that just has some unbelievably ignorant people that comment on it. I don't even know why I look at it. I do know why I look at it. I look at it to try and keep abreast of all facets, because I look at many different news sources. And it was at the start of the outbreak of all of this, and somebody had written in the comments, and that is why we need our borders in the UK. You know, it was like bringing Brexit into it. And it was like I just wanted to hold my head in my hands. It's like, my God, you know, how ignorant can you be that you think that a virus like this is just going to be stopped at a customs border, you know? I mean, I know that person it's not even worth going into their energy, but it says something. And it's like, but we don't realise that a lot of the time we have this energy of like, this is my border, this is my country, this is my identity. It won't come to me. A virus will. If it wants to come, it will come. So what it's teaching us is that we are all we all actually are the same. We're all just flesh and blood, but also we are all divine, of course. You know, we can influence this. It's a great leveler, is what Metatron is saying. It's a great leveler. And so these people that are giving up their lives, they're teaching us that. Whether we want to learn the lesson is a completely different matter, but the lesson's there to be learnt if we want to look at it. The hanged man, seeing things from a different perspective, that actually we're all one. We're all born, we all die, we all have to eat, we all have to... Metatron's being quite graphic here, defecate, you know. It's the human body. Then I pulled 3 cards underneath that, and these are more optimistic. Thank God. And I feel this is how it will play out, which is ultimately, we've got 2 aces. 2 aces. If you can hear a noise in the background, sorry, that's my hamster. There's a lot of animal energy in this reading. 2 aces, okay? A solution will be found. Now, I did ask, will a solution be found as well? And I got this card, which is the Queen of Pentacles. Now, to me, if you look at this deck, she's very... I mean, the Queen of Pentacles is the Queen of Earth, so it's always quite earthy. But to me, this is a real... It's like the divine feminine energy. It's nature. It's all that beautiful green energy. I straight away, when I pulled that, I thought the answer lies in nature. The answer lies in nature. What I mean by that is that there will be a drug that is found which is derived from a plant, which a lot of them are anyway, that is able to fight this, okay? So that will come. Unfortunately, probably, pharmaceuticals will make a lot of money out of it, but, you know, it's interesting, sometimes what nature takes away, nature will also give back. So nature basically freely wants to provide, you know, the drugs to us to help us to heal many things, okay? If people make money off the back of that, well, there's some karma to be paid with that in terms of the ones that really make those big decisions to withhold drugs from people because of money. But anyway, let's not get into that too much. What Metatron has just shown me is this is the outcome in terms of, is there a cure? Yes, there is, and it comes from nature. I've also got the 6 of Swords here. That came up as well, which is just a card of rest, moving away from problems, which came with the 2 aces. So it'll play out. This virus is going to play out. It will die down. A solution will be found. But I'm feeling it's not an instant solution. It's going to take a little bit of time. I'm now going to move on to some protective tips. And at this point, I'm going to light some sage. Sage is also a brilliant thing for helping to clear a space. Has antibacterial energy to it, sage. So sage is a tip to burn sage around your home, around yourself. You can sage yourself, you know, a little piece like this. I can easily sage my whole aura if I want to, go around the whole outline of my body with intention, go through my chakra points, go to the vulnerable places where this virus can seat itself, which is sort of the lungs, this whole area. So you could focus it on the higher heart, focus it on the throat, focus it on the ears, focus it on the back of the head, focus it on the eyes as well. There seems to be something about it has an ability to travel. I don't know how the hell it does it, but there's something to do with sight, being able to, you know, and I'm not seeing it come to a situation where we're all having to walk around in masks, you know, in every city or anything like that. But, you know, if you found yourself somewhere where there is an outbreak and you need to protect yourself, in all seriousness, wearing glasses, particularly wraparound glasses, is going to be helpful. So I'll just say that before I forget it. But anyway, sage, let's just keep that burning whilst I'm talking about protective things that Metatron's talking about. Right, where do we start? Let's start with, I've talked about silver. I've talked about Collodial Silver, haven't I? Vitamin C as well is another one that's being given as a tool to help you. In terms of colours, I've talked about silver, I've talked about white. He's actually talking also about clothing, light coloured clothing, white in particular. From a colour therapy perspective, black absorbs light, light is energy. I feel as though this virus is airborne, so it's linked into light, it's linked into the wavelength of light. So wearing black helps to absorb it potentially into you, whereas wearing a lighter colour or white reflects it back out. Now, if you're having to wear a black uniform or a black suit for work or navy blue, wear white underwear underneath it, okay? Because that will do the same job. So that's that one. Crystals. I was given a number of crystals. And this was really interesting to me because, you know, I heard the names of the crystals and then I went and looked up the properties, and each time my jaw just hit the floor because it was like, oh my goodness, Metatron knows his crystals. So I've printed out already a few little details about each crystal that I'm going to mention. And what I'm suggesting here is that you either build yourself a little grid, you know, on something like Metatron's cube or the flower of life. So Metatron's cube, a grid like that, you could place some affirmations, your own name, some crystals onto it. But I'm more feeling that it'd be good to carry the crystals actually around with you, maybe in a little bag like this. And these are the crystals that I'm being given. Basically, the first is petersite, which looks like that. Petersite, okay. It's beautiful crystal, this one, isn't it? Just feel into the energy of that. And this is good for balancing temperature and helping fever. One of the symptoms of coronavirus is fever. So petersite helps to balance temperature and helps fever. Also helps with glandular problems, fear, any immunity type virus or disease. It includes AIDS as well as something that it's good for helping with. Okay, so the first one is petersite. The second one is nebula stone, and I don't have one to hand. It's a stone with green blotches on it, basically. And what's this one good for? Nebula stone helps healthy cell growth and renewal. Can help overall where the immune system has gone out of harmony and resulted in cellular damage. Helps with renewal, repair and protection needed from such immunity upset. It activates the bodies of cellular light and it unites and strengthens the pure light of the entire being. I'm reading from a website called KSC Crystals. I'll link him below, Keith. I'm reading his words here from his website, so you can get your crystals from Keith. The next crystal that Metatron gave me was titanium aura. I have got a piece of this. Okay, titanium aura. It's very beautiful. And the qualities of titanium aura that I'm picking out is it can be used to deflect harmful atmospheric energies, toxins and rays. It strengthens the whole structure of the being, both inner and outer. It improves and encourages cell renewal. And it assists in the movement of the kundalini to the crown. And it also is committed to be a guide to the astral body to keep all journeys of astral travel safe and free of corruption. It's a stone that brings the incapable to capable, to bring the impossible to possible. at the end of the day, disease enters the body via the auric field. And if you can try to keep the astral field as clear as possible, that can help as, again, another layer of immunity fighting protection. So that's its job there. The other crystal I was given was shungite. Shungite. I've got a piece of shungite here. This is good for helping with panic and anxiety. It calms and balances. If you're in a state of fear, panic, anxiety over this virus, that's going to lower your immunity to start with, okay, because it's a lower energy. So shungite helps you to remain calm and balanced. And this particular stone, shungite, is helpful for respiratory conditions such as asthma, bronchitis, and chronic obstructive pulmonary disorder, which is lungs. And coronavirus affects the lungs. So you're being given shungite as well. So basically I've got a combination of shungite, petersite, and titanium flame aura. And the other one that I'm also going to put in here for me is, or for you as well, for us, is this one, which is called seraphinite. Okay, seraphinite. Now this one is good for self-healing, okay? It's quite a flat stone. So the one I've got is quite a flat stone. Again, it's helpful to raise the kundalini in the body, all that untapped energy that you have at your disposal to fight infection, for example. It's also a stone that helps you keep in touch with the angelic realms. But the thing that I'm particularly linking into is it's one that's helpful to increase your own powers to heal yourself. So putting your hands onto your own body to boost your own immune system, okay? So that's my little bag of crystals that I've been given to talk to you about today. Okay, let's see where we're going now. Anything else to say here, Metatron? Yeah, something came through as well about oils. And where have I written it down? Oils for protection. So I showed you my pirate oil at the start of this, okay? You don't need to get, an exact replica of this. As I say, you can make your own. I'll just remind you of the oils that are in it. It's basically clove, lemon, cinnamon, rosemary, and eucalyptus. You obviously need to check any contravening aspects to those oils. Sometimes oils are not safe to use if you, for example, you're epileptic or you've kidney issues or things like that. So if you buy essential oils, make sure that you check the safety usage on all of them, please. I actually just applied that neat to my hand, but a lot of people do not do that. They don't apply them neat to their skin. They would diffuse them in an almond oil, or you could burn it in a burner. It's just, I'm very used to working with essential oils, so I can tolerate it, but a lot of people wouldn't be able to. So pirate oil. The other oils that Metatron's particularly talking about, and it is actually in that oil anyway, is clove. He showed me clove in particular. Now, clove oil could be in terms of the dried variety. He showed me a bowl of dried cloves, which actually you can leave, for example, by your front door, by your bed, something like that. Okay, so using the dried clove to actually put outside the door or the bed. What interests me about this next layer of information I'm about to give you is it almost goes back to oldie worldy medicine. It's like the old traditions that Metatron's bringing back to us. And it does almost remind me, going back to sort of the time of like the bubonic plague in London, where people would walk around with a posy underneath their nose, a handkerchief, and it would have maybe oils or, I don't know, flowers in it to ward off whatever was there. Well, now, of course, we live in the 21st century. We've got all of these fancy drugs and pharmaceuticals. But, I feel as though there's a pull back to the old traditions to deal with this, okay, as well as any other drug that they may bring forward to obviously help cure it. So I'm giving you clove, okay. Also, Metatron's talking about placing cloves at the foot of your bed and at the bottom of your bed. The word corona actually means a crown, I believe, or it's got linked to crown. So there seems to be something about putting the clove at the crown of the bed, basically. So at the top of your bed and at the bottom of your bed, place cloves. He's also talking about salt in rooms. Again, this is a very old-fashioned remedy, really. Many of you might already use it. It's to do with purifying and cleansing energy from a room. Placing salt in the corner of a room is a very protective thing as well. And the other oils that I was also given were eucalyptus and lavender. Okay, so those were the ones that he mentioned: clove oil, eucalyptus, and lavender. But as I say, please, please, please check any contravening aspects for you and your health before you use essential oils. I have to say that. Another protective thing he mentioned to me is, and he keeps talking about this, is to place ourselves in a pyramid as a protective shape. And I am seeing the pyramid. And I'm not saying don't place yourself in a Merkaba as well, but for some reason, the pyramid is the first shape that I saw. So you're just imagining yourself inside the pyramid, and I'm feeling as though the pyramid needs to be made of copper. Okay, I've actually got one over here, which I'll just show you. Get my copper pyramid. Hold on. So I'm rather lucky. I had this made for me. But yeah, here's my copper pyramid. But you know, if you can use this now as visualization, it's like you're wanting to imagine yourself inside that. Okay, you're literally inside that. Your whole body is inside that, and it feels as though, again, it's a way to keep your space clear and well and healthy. Okay, so something about copper coming in here, the pyramid. So again, you know, imagining that structure around you in meditation or prayer. Okay, I think we're nearly there. I'm just wanting to. I wanted to see. I want to end it in terms of how does it end. I know it does end. I just want to make sure that there's anything that I haven't missed. I missed talking about my dog Bella, which I have to say, because otherwise she's going to be so cross with me, because I knew I had to bring through that energy about animals, you see, earlier today, and the fact that we need to start respecting animals more. And if you are going to eat meat, it needs to be meat that is humanely killed, and it needs to be meat that is, or animals that have had at least some form of life. It needs to be respected. You need to respect respect needs to come back into it. But again, I've talked about plant-based going into the future anyway. For some of you, it's already here. But also this abuse of nature, you know, it's like cross-contamination of nature. We're back to mad cow disease, the stuff I was talking about at the start. You know, how did that even happen? Why were we feeding animals animal products, you know, when they don't eat that type of thing? Anyway, you know, I knew I was going to be saying all this today, and I knew it might be slightly contentious for some people. And last night, Bella, bless her heart, my dog, I've got a golden lab. She's saying actually she's a red fox. Okay, she's a red fox lab. She got me up 3 times in the night. Well, in fact, she got all of us up 3 times in the night, which is unheard of for her. And 2:30 in the morning, my daughter comes in. I wake up, and Bella leaps into the bedroom, goes underneath my bed. We sort of take her downstairs back to her bed, thinking, I don't know what was going on with her. And then it repeated again at 5:30, and then again 6 o'clock. So it's like she does this every time. And I knew why she was doing it. It was like, there's something that is unsettling me. There's an energy here, and it's like, you need to deal with it. You need to talk about it. You need to say what you want to say. And I want you to speak for the animals. So thank you to Bella, bless her heart. Bells. I've got this little bell here. This is my white bell. In the old days, in the days of plague, they would ring a bell, and it would be almost like bring out your dead, okay? Well, what Metatron's saying is it's almost like we need to ring out the bells here to celebrate life and to celebrate health, okay? So it's like, the bells to celebrate life, to welcome in health, to welcome in joy, to welcome in new earth, was another visual that he gave me. And then he was also giving me the last line of one of my favourite ever books. And I'm just wondering whether I can find that or I need to go and get the book. I've talked about this book before. The book is by Sebastian Faulks and it's called Birdsong. And the last line of that book is so beautiful. And I was given it. I need to go and get the book. Hold on, I need to go and get the book. I've got it. I'm actually going to save it for the end of the video, which is only 5 minutes away anyway, because it's so beautiful. I think it'd be a lovely place to leave the whole subject. Before that, I'm just going to go through my book and make sure I've said anything. There's something really important that I haven't said, and that's why it's so important to make notes when you do videos like this. Back to why China. Why, over and above, maybe it's been released by a lab there, again, higher perspective here. China, I'm just reading my notes here, China has been isolationist and has been perceived as the enemy to many for many years. Won't get into the rights and wrongs of why that is, whether it's justified or not. That is an energy that's out there. Isolationist country, the enemy to many. And what this is doing is it's bringing in compassion to the Chinese from the outside world. And that flood of compassion and healing centered on China, who are bearing the brunt of this at the moment, is going to help them to open up to what I'm being shown is that the collective heart chakra energy of China, in terms of the average man and woman on the street, is going to be opened hugely by the inpouring positive energy of compassion, love and prayer for them. So it will help to soften. You can hear the birds, because I'm about to read Birdsong, you see. It will help to soften the energy there, which at some point is going to lead to change within the regime that exists there. Okay, so I'm just going to leave it there for now, but there's certainly something to do with it's China for a reason. And actually, even if this was something that was released by themselves, in terms of, the higher up powers that be for some twisted reason, it will come back and boomerang in terms of there's going to be a lot of love and a lot of healing and a lot of prayers that go into China, and that's going to have a ripple effect which we can't yet see, and it's going to be positive in the long run. The other thing I want to say about death generally, in terms of the fear about, pandemics spreading, is that you go when your time is up, and no pandemic changes that ever. Okay, no pandemic ever changes that. In fact, no war ever changes that. It's just a rule that the soul goes when the soul's time is up, and when your time is up, which I believe is already predestined, there isn't much that can basically stop that. So those that are dying as a result of this pandemic, it is their time to go. And as I say, I also think they're bringing up a lot of lessons for the collective that we may choose to look at or not. There's a sacrificial energy here, which they are literally giving up their lives to teach us something in terms of the fact we are actually all one. My heart's really feeling my heart here. But yeah, you go when your time is up. No pandemic can change that. So please remember that and keep it in proportion. Okay. Right. So I've done that. How does it end? So what I was shown by Metatron was, I go back to that first image I had of the funeral pyre, the huge funeral pyre. and I was shown the funeral pyre again, but I was shown many people throwing buckets of water basically onto the funeral pyre, and they were throwing them like that, you know, sort of like from left, from right, in front, behind, and it was like there were many people. So what I took from that is the image seemed to be saying people, whether it's scientists come together, it's actually a lot of people are going to come together to find the cure for this, and it will be found because the funeral pyre goes out, the flames die down, the water puts it out basically. And then I've written down here, respect for the scientists, respect for the shamans, respect for the people who help heal, like the doctors, the nurses, the mothers who nurse back to health their own young, not caring if they get infected. Respect to all of the people that come together to help fight this. And there will be many that put out the funeral pyre, okay? So it won't just be one country, it won't just be one, even if it comes out that, you know, China has found the answer or America's found, it won't be. It will be, there'll be a number of people working behind the scenes to bring this to a closure. But I also, it's interesting, I've written respect for the scientists, respect for the shamans. So it's this combination of the conventional and the alternative that seems to bring in something that helps bring this to a close. Let's just see if there's anything else Metatron wants to say before I close with this excerpt from the book, which is just one paragraph, but it's just very fitting. Those of you that have my sprays, actually the flame spray that I'm using, which is my one that I use on all my videos, it's the attunement and connection spray. This one does actually have clove in it. But let's just see. Anything else to say, Metatron? He's saying, no, we are complete. Okay, he's happy with what's come through. Okay, let me read this to you and then we will end. So, the sun was up outside. It was a fresh, clear morning, overpoweringly bright after the darkness and the panic of the cottage. Released from the need to be calm, Robert heaved his shoulders up and down and forced out several long, sobbing breaths. He walked a few paces up into the garden, and then the joy overwhelmed him. He felt it coursing through his arms and his legs. The top of his skull began to crawl and throb, as though it would lift off his head. The feeling that rose up inside him was like taking flight. His spirit lifted, and then, as the confines of his body would not contain it, seemed to soar into the air. He found that in his rapture he had walked to the top of the garden. He stopped and looked down. His feet were ankle deep in conkers, which had fallen overnight from the tree, the glossy fruit bursting from the spiky green shells. He knelt down and picked up 2 or 3 of the beautiful shining things in his hand. When he had been a boy, he had waited every year for this day. Now here was John, his boy, another chance. He threw up the conkers into the air in his great happiness, and in the tree above him they disturbed a roosting crow, which erupted from the branches with an explosive bang of its wings, and then rose up above him towards the sky, its harsh, ambiguous call coming back in long, grating waves towards the earth, to be heard by those still living. Beautiful book. It's about the triumph. Battery died. It's about the triumph of light over darkness and hope. And anyway, I hope that today's video has illuminated some of what needs to be illuminated, and also given you some practical guidance and tips for the days and months ahead. But I would like to end with just sending healing and prayers to anybody that's been affected by this virus, and asking that we all learn the lessons that it's trying to teach us. and to allow love and compassion and healing and that silver light to flow through the grid lines of Mother Earth. Much love, everybody. I'm going to get this uploaded now. Bye-bye for now.